Many talented people of colour were snubbed in major categories. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. The Hollywood foreign press are all very, very racist. So...
You probably thought your favorite celebrities stood for equality, right? But behind the fame, the red carpets, and the carefully crafted public image, some of them got caught saying and doing things they couldn't take back. From leaked videos and offensive tweets to on-air meltdowns and decades-old secrets, these are 19 Hollywood celebrities who got caught being racist. Number 19. Justin Bieber. At just 15, Justin Bieber was already a global pop sensation. But years later, that squeaky clean image took a brutal hit when a video leaked of him joking about black people using the N-word and mimicking a chainsaw sound. He laughed while telling it, fully on camera, and the people around him seemed uncomfortable, some even trying to stop him.
That's just straight.
Why are black people afraid of chainsaws?
Don't even say it. Don't say it.
Just when that clip caused a stir, another one surfaced. Bieber singing a parody of his own song, One Less Lonely Girl, replacing the lyrics with slurs and even referencing the KKK.
One less lonely one less lonely one less lonely there's gonna be one less if I kill you, I'll be part of the KKK. Then there'll be one less lonely.
The timing couldn't have been worse. He was already in legal hot water for a DUI, assault allegations, and trashing a neighbor's home. His team reportedly tried to contain the damage, with rumors they even suggested he replaced the slur with the word motorcycle. But the internet wasn't buying it. Bieber eventually apologized, blaming immaturity and ignorance, and has since tried to rebuild his image. But for millions, those recordings still linger as a reminder that behind the fame, something darker was caught on tape. Number 18. Roseanne Barr. Roseanne Barr had one of the most unexpected comebacks in TV history. Her iconic sitcom returned in 2018 to massive ratings, making it ABC's biggest hit in years. But just as quickly as she returned to the spotlight, it all came crashing down because of a single tweet. In the middle of the night, Roseanne posted a racist comment comparing Valerie Jarrett, a former advisor to President Obama, to a character from Planet of the Apes. The internet exploded. Within hours, ABC canceled the show, despite its success and plans for a full season. Hundreds of people lost their jobs overnight, all because of one reckless post. Roseanne tried to walk it back. She blamed Ambien, claiming the sleeping pill affected her judgment, and posted tearful apology videos. But then, she made things worse by attacking her co-stars, especially Sarah Gilbert and Michael Fishman, for speaking out against her. Instead of taking full responsibility, she lashed out, doubling down and shifting blame. What could have been a legendary second act turned into a cautionary tale about how one moment of racism, broadcast to millions, can destroy decades of hard work in a matter of hours. Number 17. Lea Michele. Lea Michele built her brand on Broadway vocals, perfectionism, and the role of Rachel Berry on Glee. But in 2020, her carefully controlled image cracked open because of a single tweet. Like many celebrities, she posted support for Black Lives Matter following the death of George Floyd. But her tweet didn't inspire praise, it triggered a bombshell. Samantha Ware, a former Glee cast member, responded publicly and accused Lea of making her life a living hell on set. According to Ware, Lea once threatened to SHT in her wig, a line so aggressive and bizarre that it stunned fans. But it wasn't just bullying, it was the racial undertone, the targeting, and the microaggressions that made the accusations hit harder. When Lea responded, her apology fell flat. She claimed she didn't remember doing any of it and said she was sorry if she had caused pain. That word, if, only fueled the backlash. Brand deals dropped her immediately, including HelloFresh, which publicly severed ties. For years, rumors had swirled about Lee's diva behavior, but this was different. It wasn't just about ego anymore. It was about how far someone could go unchecked in an industry that often protects its stars, even at someone else's expense. Number 16. Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly was once one of the most powerful names in American media. With major roles at Fox News and then NBC, she was known for her sharp delivery and no-nonsense attitude. But in 2018, her career took a nosedive, live, on national television. During a Halloween-themed segment on her morning show, Kelly questioned why blackface costumes were considered offensive. She told her all-white panel that when she was growing up, it was okay, as long as you were dressing as a character. The internet didn't just react, it erupted. Viewers were stunned that someone in her position could be so unaware, or worse, indifferent, to the long and painful history of blackface in America. NBC scrambled to do damage control. Kelly emailed staff with an apology and gave a tearful on-air statement the next day, saying she'd learned from the backlash. The audience gave her a standing ovation, but behind the scenes, the decision was already made. NBC replaced her show with reruns, then canceled her contract entirely, despite paying her a reported $69 million. It wasn't the first time Megyn Kelly made racially charged remarks, like when she insisted Santa Claus could only be white, but this time, there was no coming back. Her downfall was a clear reminder: ignorance isn't a defense when you've got millions of people watching. Number 15. John Mayer. John Mayer is known for his guitar skills, soulful lyrics, and a long list of celebrity relationships. But in 2010, it wasn't his music or love life that made headlines. It was an interview that quickly turned into a PR disaster. During a Playboy magazine feature, Mayer went off script in the worst possible way. When asked about dating preferences, he made bizarre and racially charged comments, saying he had a white supremacist and that he wasn't attracted to black women. If that wasn't bad enough, he went on to name-drop black actresses like Karen Parsons and specifically said they weren't his type, while bizarrely claiming that black people love me. What he thought was edgy, sarcastic humor came off as arrogant, tone-deaf, and unapologetically racist. Critics pounced immediately. Many noted that Mayer was trying to sound like a provocateur, but instead, he just sounded offensive and ignorant. Even his musical peers distanced themselves. It wasn't just a slip of the tongue, it was a full-blown meltdown in print. Later, Mayer admitted he had been trying too hard to be clever and controversial, and that the whole thing had blown up in his face. He told fans, "I think the world would be better if I just stopped doing interviews." And for once, most people actually agreed. Number 14. Hartley Sawyer. For a while, Hartley Sawyer was living the dream. As Ralph Dibny, aka the Elongated Man, on The Flash, he'd gone from struggling actor to superhero on a major network show. But in 2020, everything came crashing down when a string of his old tweets resurfaced, and they weren't just cringeworthy, they were downright racist, misogynistic, and violent. In one tweet, he joked about physically assaulting women. In another, he mocked black activists. And it didn't stop there. His timeline was littered with years' worth of hateful and ignorant remarks. The tweets were written before he ever joined The Flash, but once they went viral, the studio didn't hesitate. The CW and Warner Brothers released a statement making it clear they had zero tolerance for that kind of behavior. Sawyer was fired immediately, and his character was written out of the series. He tried to apologize, posting a statement where he claimed he was ashamed of who he used to be and had since changed. But the damage was already done. Fans felt betrayed, co-stars were blindsided, and the show had no choice but to move forward without him. In a single weekend, Hartley Sawyer went from rising star to another cautionary tale of how the internet never forgets. Number 13. Abby Lee Miller. Abby Lee Miller made her name as the no-nonsense, drill sergeant dance instructor on Dance Moms. Her tough love approach was praised by some and criticized by others, but it kept her in the spotlight for years. Then in 2020, at the height of the Black Lives Matter protests, Miller joined a wave of celebrities posting black squares on Instagram to show solidarity. But her post didn't bring praise, it brought receipts. Adriana Smith, the mother of former student Cameron, came forward with a disturbing story. She claimed that years earlier, Miller told her, "I know you grew up in the hood with only a box of 8 crayons, but I grew up in the country club with a box of 64. Don't be stupid." The remark wasn't just offensive, it revealed how Miller viewed the families of her black students, and it pulled the curtain back on years of mistreatment that had gone unspoken. Lifetime acted quickly. Miller's new show, Abby's Virtual Dance-Off, was canceled before it ever aired, and the network publicly cut all ties with her. Miller did issue an apology, saying she understood the pain she caused, but for many, it was too little, too late. Her downfall wasn't about a single moment, it was about a pattern that had finally been exposed. Number 12. Anthony Cumia. Anthony Cumia built his career on pushing boundaries. As one half of the controversial radio duo Opie and Anthony, he was known for outrageous humor and saying what others wouldn't. But in 2014, he crossed a line that even his shock jock persona couldn't protect him from. It started with a simple trip to Times Square, where he was taking photos as a hobby. According to Cumia, a woman accidentally walked into his shot, got angry, and allegedly hit him. But what happened next destroyed his career. Not the incident itself, but what he posted online after. Instead of handling the situation privately, Cumia went on a full-blown Twitter rant, unleashing a series of racist and misogynistic tweets that stunned even his most loyal fans. He referred to black people as savages, painted himself as the victim, and showed zero remorse. Screenshots of the rant spread fast, and within days, SiriusXM issued a statement cutting ties with him. They made it clear that his views were wholly inconsistent with the company's values. Cumia tried to play it off as free speech gone too far, but the damage couldn't be undone. Years of edgy humor had finally caught up with him, and unlike a staged radio bit, this time there was no laughing it off. Number 11. Paula Deen. For years, Paula Deen was America's southern sweetheart, known for her buttery recipes, charming accent, and feel-good cooking shows. But in 2013, that image melted faster than one of her famous biscuits when a workplace discrimination lawsuit exposed her long history of racist behavior. Under oath, Deen admitted to using racial slurs in the past. But it was her bizarre fantasy of throwing a plantation-style wedding with all-black waitstaff in white jackets and bow ties that truly stunned the public. What started as a lawsuit turned into a full-blown PR catastrophe. Deen released a flood of apology videos, tearfully begging for forgiveness and insisting she wasn't racist. But the damage was done. Food Network dropped her. Major sponsors like Walmart and Target cut ties. And fans who once saw her as a wholesome presence now viewed her through an entirely different lens. Critics said it wasn't just about the language, it was about the mindset, a deep-rooted nostalgia for the Old South that ignored the brutal history behind it. Paula tried to make a comeback, but she never truly recovered. Because once you expose that kind of thinking, no amount of sweet tea and butter can cover it up. Number 10. Taylor Selfridge. Taylor Selfridge wasn't exactly a household name, but she was on her way there. As a reality TV star on MTV's Teen Mom OG, she had carved out a niche audience and was even set to star in her own special documenting her journey into motherhood. But just days before the special was set to air in 2020, everything changed. Old tweets from 2012 and 2013 resurfaced. Tweets where Taylor made blatantly racist remarks, including one where she said she didn't greet black customers at work because they scared her. The tweets weren't new. In fact, MTV had already aired a confrontation between Taylor and another cast member, Cheyenne Floyd, over the same posts. But in the wake of the George Floyd protests and a nationwide reckoning around race, the network took a harder stance. They pulled the special immediately and cut ties with Taylor altogether. MTV issued a statement saying they strongly condemned systemic racism and would be re-evaluating their content. Taylor tried to control the narrative, claiming it was her decision to walk away from reality TV. But viewers weren't buying it. Her attempt to quietly exit felt more like a last-ditch effort to dodge accountability. And just like that, a growing reality TV career was completely derailed by words she thought the internet would forget. Number 9. Don Imus. Don Imus was a radio legend. With a career spanning over 3 decades, his show Imus in the Morning was known for pushing limits, stirring controversy, and towing the line between edgy and offensive. But in 2007, he stepped way over that line, and there was no coming back. While discussing the Rutgers women's basketball team, Imus casually referred to the players, most of whom were black, as nappy-headed hoes. The backlash was instant. Civil rights leaders like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson called for his firing, advertisers began to pull out, and public outrage grew by the hour. NBC and CBS initially tried damage control by suspending him for 2 weeks, but it wasn't enough. The pressure was overwhelming, and both networks were eventually forced to fire him. A decades-long career came to a crashing halt, seemingly overnight. But Imus wasn't done. Less than a year later, he returned to the airwaves on WABC, rebranding the show with a new cast and a slightly toned-down tone. He stayed on air until his death in 2019. Still, his legacy remains tainted. One racist remark didn't just damage his career. It reminded the world that no matter how long you've been in the spotlight, you're never too big to fall. Number 8. Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton built an empire on her image. Wealthy, glamorous, carefree, and always camera-ready. But behind the designer bags and catchphrases was a darker, less polished history. In her 2023 memoir, Paris, the memoir, she opened up about the trauma she endured at a controversial youth facility, and in doing so, revealed a series of disturbing truths about her past, including her use of racist and homophobic slurs. According to Paris, many of these moments came during her wild party years, when she was struggling with PTSD, drinking heavily, and trying to numb herself to everything. She admitted to using offensive language more than once, and while she didn't try to deny it, She also didn't offer excuses. "Sometimes I was just wasted and being a FNGB," she wrote. It was raw, unfiltered, and more honest than most celebrity apologies. Still, it didn't soften the impact. Clips had already circulated for years showing Hilton using racial slurs on camera, but her confession confirmed what many suspected: there was truth behind the footage. While she's since worked to rebrand herself as a more grounded entrepreneur and advocate, the stains of her past still linger. Because no matter how much you grow, when you're caught using that kind of language, people remember. Number 7. Don Cherry. In Canada, Don Cherry wasn't just a hockey commentator. He was a cultural icon. Loud suits, louder opinions, and decades on Coach's Corner made him a household name. But in 2019, after more than 40 years on air, Cherry's career came to an abrupt end over 7 words: "You people love our way of life." The comment came during a segment about Remembrance Day poppies, when Cherry criticized immigrants in Toronto for not wearing them. The phrase, "you people," instantly lit a firestorm. To many, it was a clear dog whistle targeting non-white Canadians, and this time, viewers weren't willing to brush it off as just Don being Don. Sportsnet, the network airing his segment, acted swiftly. They cut ties with Cherry and issued a statement saying sports are meant to unite people, not divide them. Cherry, true to form, refused to apologize. He insisted he was standing up for veterans and that his words were taken out of context. But public patience had run out. The man who had gotten away with decades of controversial comments, from mocking European players to criticizing immigrants, had finally gone too far. His firing marked the end of an era, but also a turning point. Because even legends can wear out their welcome when their words cross the line from opinion to outright offense. Number 6. James Stewart. James Stewart was once America's favorite good guy, the charming, all-American everyman who starred in classics like It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. He was the embodiment of decency on screen, but behind the wholesome image was a far more complicated reality. In the early 1970s, Stewart was involved in a sitcom where a black actor, Hal Williams, had been cast in a leading role. According to reports, Stewart wasn't pleased. Not long after production began, Williams was abruptly replaced, with many pointing to Stewart's behind-the-scenes influence as the reason. The allegations didn't stop there. During the filming of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, Stewart was reportedly heard using racial slurs, and multiple sources have described him as having deeply conservative views that clashed with the changing political climate of the time. Even his decades-long friendship with fellow actor Henry Fonda suffered. The two had a physical altercation over politics and eventually agreed to never speak about political issues again, despite being close friends. While Stewart's name still sits high on Hollywood's pedestal, his legacy isn't as spotless as the roles he played. Because even the most beloved faces in film history can be hiding sides that rarely make it to the screen. Number 5. John Wayne. John Wayne wasn't just a movie star, he was a full-blown American symbol. With his towering presence and iconic cowboy swagger, he represented rugged masculinity, patriotism, and old-school values for generations. But in 1971, that image took a hit that would resurface decades later. In a now infamous Playboy interview, Wayne openly expressed support for white supremacy. He claimed he didn't feel guilty about slavery and made sweeping, offensive statements about Native Americans, saying they were selfishly trying to keep this land for themselves. It was shocking at the time, but not career-ending. In fact, Wayne continued making films and winning awards well into the 70s. But as time passed, those comments aged poorly. Much later, it was revealed that during the 1973 Oscars, when Marlon Brando sent Native American activist Sachin Littlefeather to refuse his award in protest of Hollywood's treatment of indigenous people, Wayne allegedly had to be physically restrained by security to prevent him from storming the stage. Calls to remove Wayne's name from public buildings and airports have grown louder in recent years. And while his fans argue that he was a product of his time, others point to his words and actions as clear evidence of long-held racial prejudice. For someone who played the hero in so many stories, his real-life legacy tells a much more troubling tale. Number 4. Walt Disney. Walt Disney is often remembered as the man who brought magic to millions. Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, and the birth of animated storytelling all trace back to his legacy. But behind the cheerful cartoons and family-friendly empire lies a deeply controversial history. Disney has long been accused of holding racist and anti-Semitic views, and while some defenders chalk it up to the era he lived in, the evidence paints a more uncomfortable picture. Former employees have shared conflicting accounts of his behavior. Some called him kind and fair, but others, including legendary animator Bill Melendez, describe him as openly biased against minorities. Then there's the documented history. A 1938 rejection letter from the Disney Company clearly stated that women would not be considered for creative roles, reinforcing sexist hiring practices. And in 1935, Disney welcomed Nazi filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl to tour his studios, just months after Kristallnacht, a violent anti-Jewish pogrom in Germany. The visit drew immediate backlash. Even the films themselves tell part of the story. Dumbo featured crows widely criticized as racial caricatures, and Song of the South was so problematic that Disney buried it entirely, refusing to release it on modern streaming platforms. It wasn't until 1957, more than 3 decades into the company's history, that Disney hired its first black animator, Floyd Norman. While Walt Disney revolutionized entertainment, his legacy is far from spotless. And the more we examine the magic, the more we start to see the shadows hiding beneath it. 3. Henry Ford. Henry Ford is often hailed as the man who revolutionized the automobile industry, introduced the assembly line, and built the foundation of modern American manufacturing. But few people talk about how he also used his massive influence to spread racism and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Through his personal newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, Ford published a series of articles based on a fabricated document called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a notorious anti-Semitic hoax. The paper pushed dangerous rhetoric that earned Ford admiration from none other than Adolf Hitler, who mentioned Ford by name in Mein Kampf. But it wasn't just about words on paper. Inside his factories, Ford enforced racial segregation and implemented strict control over his workers' private lives. His so-called Americanization programs forced immigrants to abandon their native languages, customs, and even clothing. And while he famously introduced the $5 workday, it came with strings attached. Workers were monitored by investigators to ensure they lived according to Ford's moral standards, which often excluded non-white communities. Ford also despised labor unions, going so far as to allow brutal crackdowns on organizers. One of the most infamous incidents, the 1937 Battle of the Overpass, saw Ford's private security violently attack union workers in broad daylight. For all his contributions to industry, Henry Ford left behind a legacy soaked in control, suppression, and deeply rooted prejudice. He didn't just build cars, he built systems that helped reinforce racial and ethnic divides in America for generations. Number 2. Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby is remembered as the smooth-voiced crooner who defined an era, White Christmas, classic radio hits, and a calm, fatherly presence that made him a staple in American homes. But behind the velvet voice and charming smile was a man whose career was steeped in the same casual racism that defined much of early Hollywood. Like many of his contemporaries, Crosby performed in blackface on multiple occasions, a practice rooted in mocking and dehumanizing black people. One of the most notable examples came in the 1954 film White Christmas, where he performed the song Mandy, a number lifted straight from minstrel show traditions. Despite having friendships with black artists like Louis Armstrong, and even using his influence to support Armstrong's career, Crosby still regularly used racial slurs off-camera, according to those who knew him. And while some argue that this was just how things were back then, others point out that even by the standards of the time, Crosby's behavior was problematic. He wasn't just complicit, he actively participated in the very systems that reinforced ugly stereotypes. Crosby wasn't alone. Stars like Frank Sinatra and Judy Garland did the same. But as one of the most influential entertainers of the 20th century, his actions carried extra weight. And today, many fans are left asking, can you separate the voice that sang holiday joy from the man who casually reinforced hate? Number 1. Walter Brennan. Walter Brennan may not be a household name today, but during Hollywood's golden age, he was one of the most decorated actors in the business, winning 3 Academy Awards and charming audiences with his folksy, grandfatherly roles. But behind the scenes, Brennan was far from the lovable characters he played. Known for his extreme right-wing views, Brennan held deeply racist and paranoid beliefs that shocked even those in the conservative circles he ran with. He was an active member of the John Birch Society, a far-right group known for spreading conspiracy theories about civil rights and communism. Brennan truly believed that the civil rights movement was a plot orchestrated by communists to overthrow America. That belief led him to build a literal bunker at his home, convinced a race war was coming. And when major civil rights leaders were assassinated, Brennan reportedly celebrated, showing zero remorse and a level of hatred that went far beyond private opinion. What's even more disturbing is that Brennan allegedly recorded racist propaganda in the same voice he used for his beloved Grandpa Imus character from The Real McCoys, blending his TV persona with toxic ideology. His story serves as a chilling reminder. Just because someone plays a kind-hearted figure on screen doesn't mean that's who they are in real life. And there you have it. 19 celebrities whose racist actions or comments shattered their public image. Comment which one shocked you the most. And remember, fame might protect you for a while, but eventually, the truth always surfaces.